What's up, guys? Welcome to the next interview of today, and I'm super excited to introduce this amazing sister, just epic goddess who is on a mission to really devote herself to empowering the next 7 generations of women, moms in particular, which I think is so powerful because motherhood shapes so many lives. So it shapes the context overall. Being a woman really is a gift, and I'm not trying to downplay at all our amazing men out there. I think you guys play such an intricate, powerful role as well in creation, and we wouldn't be able to create without you guys at all. However, there's something to be said of the soil, the fertilized soil. If it's not fertilized, nothing can grow in it. And it's so important for us to understand this from the perspective that women have a responsibility in the context of life itself. How we shape our youth, how we shape our men really goes on to create the next generation. And Kari Azuma is going live with me. Let me just message her really quick, make sure that she is on. She has been talking about rites of passages for a while, and for the first time she created something super epic called Threshold, which is really about honoring that rites of passage. And I believe rites of passage is so important because, hold on, we're just messaging at the same time. All right, I think maybe she was on East Coast time, but we'll figure it out. Rites of Passage is super important because everything has a passing. And a lot of times, especially in the Western society, we have, in many ways, castrated that ancestral remembrance, that ancestral lineage of really honoring our passing, our evolution. For example, let me just give you perspective. Hey Anna, how are you? What's up, Fred, Brianna, David? What's up, guys? Adrian, awesome people on. But for example, to give you some perspective as Kari jumps on, let me just make sure that she is. Okay. What's up, Kelly? So for example, when a woman, a girl, sorry, I think we got our times a little. All right, she's jumping on, guys. What's up, Kelly? So for example, let me just give you some example as she jumps on. As we move on from being a woman as a child, and we experience our moon cycle for the first time, that is a rites of passage in itself. Yeah, we definitely got our times crossed, so I apologize. Let's see if she can still make this time, and if not, I'm just gonna jam with you guys for a bit and then bring her on. So when a woman experiences her moon cycle for the first time, that's an actual rites of passage. That's something that we are experiencing for the first time, that is marking us as something that is defining us as women. And a lot of times, girls, myself included, experience their, what's up, Gerard? We experience our moon cycle and then we're like, what's up, Jetty? We experience our moon cycle and then we're like, okay, now what? What does this mean? It's the same thing with motherhood, and I love that Kari is really being a pioneer of this movement to create that space for women to unravel in this conversation of what it means to become a mom and explore the growing pains that comes with that, because that's a big conversation. And I know for myself, I have had a lot of fears around motherhood because I thought, one, it was like ball and chain. My life will never be the same. My freedom will be extinct. And my freedom is my number one value, right? It's like freedom and authenticity, number one. And a child, being a mom, represented all these fears for me. What's up? She's on. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, I'm going to bring the expert on. But yes, all of these fears talk to us about what we are entering. And embracing those fears is really huge for us to step into that new experience. On. What's up, Michelle? All right.
Hi.
You did it. I'm all here like rambling about your rites of passage. I'm like, let me bring on the expert.
So sorry. My son was having a crisis and I was like trying to get him on a projector to watch a movie and it was crazy. I apologize.
Thank you. So I did a very brief intro about you and how amazing you are, but I would love for them to hear about who you are, what you're about, what work you do.
Okay, well, thank you for filling in the blanks. So I'm Kari Azuma. I always start up with, just letting people know my commitment, which is I'm a commitment to a legacy of empowered mothers leading the next 7 generations. I always have the disclaimer that doesn't mean it excludes anyone like other women or men, it includes everyone. This is just how I see myself doing my piece. And I've been in leadership development work as a coach for 8 years now. And it really wasn't until 2015 where when I had my son that, I kind of went through my own tunnel of busted expectations and just like a lot of confusion around the identity shift into motherhood. And I thought, God, if anybody needs leadership training, it's mothers, or just a different level of support. Because when I became a mom, I was really like looking for a coach, and I had gone to counseling. I had a lot of postpartum depression, and I tried all these other modalities, moms groups, stuff like that. But I was like, no, I just really need like a powerhouse woman who I've seen walk through this, who is like still in her power and doing what she loves in the world, and also just like embracing this transformation called motherhood. And I really just couldn't find somebody that was doing that, right? Or like I couldn't resonate with it. It's really interesting because now I see a lot of women doing this. Yeah, well, I guess a lot of women in my circles, but before it was like no one. So I figured, okay, well, I feel like I just have to become that coach then and do this for women. And so that's kind of been my mission ever since. And I've led, online programs. Empowered Mothers Alliance was the 6-month coaching group I've done 2 times. I loved it. It was like really, really awesome. But it didn't allow me. I found myself getting stuck more in the leadership conversations and wanting to fulfill that for the women versus really going deeper into the psychology of like who they became as mothers. So recently, that's what the work I've been doing more with my new retreats called Threshold. And it's been so amazing, just like incredible, just such a big birth in my work. And I didn't know if it was going to hit or land. And I got just like amazing, incredible results and feedback from the first one I did in Australia, which was so magical. And, we could talk about that more, but I could like list my credentials and all those things, but this is like really what I love to do. And that's really like the long and short of it.
What I love.
What's
up, George? What I love about you though is the extensive amount of learning that you've submitted yourself to, both in as a leadership coach, as an empowerment coach, as a transformational coach. You really like know your stuff. You're the real deal out there. And I coined you before I brought you on live as a pioneer of this movement of really having mothers experience the rites of passage. And I want us to dive in deeper into this because, girl, I'm right there. I'm like,
let's do it. Yeah. Woo! George said we look like sisters. That's because we are sisters, George. From another mother.
Yes, from the great mister. So let's talk about rites of passage and then how that pertains to mothers stepping into that motherhood stage.
Beautiful. Well, God, where to start? Well, I mean, one thing I'll back up on is since you were talking about me doing the work, the first body of work I've ever done in the growth and development realm was actually to go on a vision fast, which is derived from the vision quest, the Native American tradition of going out into the wilderness for 4 days, 4 nights, no food, traditionally no water, but I got water, thank God, and searching for a vision for your life. My dad had done this. It's a rite of passage ceremony. I didn't know what rites of passage was, when I was younger, but when I was 16, my dad did this. And I was so impacted by his journey and just seeing the change and the shift in him when he came back with this like new found soul connection, this like sense of purpose. And his vision was to slow down and really be present to all of life. And everyone's vision is different who comes back. And I was like, wow, one day I'm going to do that. And so 10 years later, God, was it 10 years later? Yeah, when I was 27, I did it. And it was pretty much the entire catalyst of how I ended up in coaching, growth and development, everything that I do now, my purpose now. It was such an incredible experience. To this day, the most embodied and deep experience I've ever done. And I've done a lot of coaching work. And so I started actually training in that work to lead other people out on their quests. And then I kind of just got this message like, this isn't my path to lead this. And I wondered, like, why did I do all this work and all this training? Like, why was I led down this path? And that question never got answered until this year, another 10 years later. Oh man, I'm getting old. 30 and 37.
Old at all.
Where no, I'm just kidding. Where like I'm on my second pregnancy now, which was like, I feel like this child is just like, it's time, Mom, for this part, and it's a girl, which is like for me so blissful as far as like the feminine awakening and all the things. Another story. But so this work is huge, and it's not very prevalent. It's very present in indigenous culture, even in other cultures that we call third world, but like they have some amazing rituals that are welcoming people into new phases of life. And a rite of passage is basically it's like a threshold, which is why I named my retreat threshold, that you're crossing over it and you're just consciously marking a new phase into life. So whether that's, starting your period when you're a young teenager or a young teenage girl, or a boy leaving home, or becoming a mother, or menopause, or marriage, like there's these huge rites that we don't ritualize in sort of like a more soulful, conscious way. It's like we ritualize them through material, and like, oh, okay, now you get the registry, or now you get the big wedding, or now you get the car or the apartment when you move out. It's like that's what we celebrate in our American culture anyway, a lot more. And I've just seen how this has really set up mothers to fail, that we don't have. Because listen, I wanted to be a mom since I was like 5.
Really?
And then when I became a mom, oh my God, forever.
What?
My mom even like would always say like, don't worry about your purpose, you'll be a mom. Yeah, well, there you go. One day you're gonna get that Grammy probably, because now I'm just kidding. But yeah, it was like I've always wanted to do it, and as soon as I became one, I was just like, oh my God, like I just felt so ill-equipped. And it wasn't because I wasn't able to like instinctually mother. I think we all have that, but it was just because I wasn't prepared for the massive swiftness of that transformation. It's so fast. And I'll be honest with you, I put out a soul course, like a webinar that I'm going to do to prepare pregnant women for this shift. Yes. I haven't had one person show interest.
We're going to put the link in the comments. Yes. I know a few pregnant
But I'm starting to question it. Because this is all, it's almost like I'm starting my business over, because I'm really having to introduce people to this concept of rite of passage, doesn't quite land because it's not programmed into our culture, right? So I just really started, I even talked to some pregnant women, and it's like during that time, the preparation is already so vast, and it's so labor centered with birth that I don't even know if there's a concern or a need for that. I'm starting to evaluate, like, maybe this isn't where the need is. But I'm working with so many women after they have the baby and just like, God, I wish I had this preparation before. So I'm trying to do it, and I'm like, wow, it's that ingrained that women are like, I don't even need to like put the effort and energy into that. I'll be okay. I'll figure it out. But then we're all sort of left floundering when we get into this position. Not everyone, but I mean, even the best experience of becoming a mother, the most blissful, there is a shift, there's a mourning, there's a process that if it doesn't happen right away, will happen eventually. And so, I don't know if this is all blending and making sense.
Totally.
But it's just a newer concept, I think. But it's so powerful to have watched these women who went through my retreat in Australia, see them. I basically created a new threshold, had them bring everything that they've had from mothering in, and just dissect it and say, here's what happened, and here's where I actually want to be as a mother. Here's the woman I actually want to be. Here's my new threshold, and they get to mark that. So powerful. It was like so amazing to watch. And again, it was all experiment, but it worked. And I'm seeing how hungry women are for this now. And I'm just like so on fire about it.
What I think is happening, babe, is that you are pioneering a movement, and it is going to take some time for the main audience to catch up. But you're bringing back something that I was sharing before you got on live, that it almost feels like we were castrated from, that ancestral learning, that ancestral lineage of how important it is to create that rites of passage. Like you said, from a child to receiving her first moon cycle, to experience this woman. I remember when I had my first moon cycle, I was like, fuck, now what? I thought it was like,
disorienting. Yeah.
And there's a little bit of shame that comes with it culturally in not being able to know who to turn to and who to share that with, right? So even with women that are becoming moms, I feel like there is a little bit of shame in asking for support or revealing your fears, revealing what you're most afraid of, because what are they going to think about me? Or, so there's all that stuff, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you definitely nailed it. That's the thing. The rite of passage for women that actually exists in our culture is like, oh, you get to be superwoman now. Like, welcome to the world of like doing it all, having it all. And that's the context. And then that basically sets up, I love the way my midwife said this. She said, women are expected to start at 100% and everything else the deficit. Versus like, hey, we're starting down here from beginner, and everything we do is learning, and it's like a win, and it's like it's a piece of our transformative process. That's the difference, is like the rite of passage is set up this way up here in this country, and I'm wanting to start here. So women have a chance to actually just slow down and start that claiming from the beginning, even before they have the baby, which is what the webinar was set up to be. So yeah, it is an interesting path to kind of forge. It's like totally scary to be doing it right before I have a new baby, to be honest. I'm like, oh man, what a time to start new.
Let's dive into some of the fears that women may experience. They find out they're pregnant. Now what? They're going through all these changes, these hormonal changes.
Yeah, huge. And they think they're crazy. Actually, Jenny and I are actually coaching a couple together right now who are preparing for a baby, which has been, I have to say, one of like the biggest joys I've ever done in coaching. I absolutely love it, because Jenny and I were so just like, woo, blindsided. And now we get to prepare these parents who are amazing human beings. And when I first talked to her one-on-one before we started the couple coaching, she was like, I feel like I'm just crazy. And I hate that I can't be this like exciting, sexual, like awesome person that I was when we first started dating. And like now I just feel like I'm this monster, and he's never actually gonna know, because they had a baby pretty soon after they met. that he's just gonna, this is who he knows now, is this like monster. And I'm just like, oh man, like that would be really hard if there's no context around like what's actually happening. I was like, that's all hormones, baby. You should see me with my husband right now. I'm crazy. But he knows because I've had a baby. He's like, oh, that's the pregnancy. That he can distinguish that. But if like there's no context and there's no one supporting you and saying like, oh yeah, this stuff is happening. What's happening is you're experiencing a death right now. And not only are you feeling all of that grief, but you don't have any context to mourn it. And so that's really what I was wanting to set up for women who are pregnant, was to say, hey, it doesn't have to be a sad thing, or like you don't have to like give up your whole identity. It's more just about like, well, what are the pieces that are getting triggered? And even the second time around happened to me, you know. I've been getting triggered around, you know, like not having just the unit of 3 anymore. As soon as I got pregnant, I was yelling at Sitka all the time and just realizing like, oh my God, I'm so afraid to go through another, I'm afraid of birth. And so it's coming out in the same patterns I had early on in my mothering with Sitka. And just, you know, there's things that come up. Anything that's going on in your psyche gets amplified when you're pregnant. And so while most preparation is focused on labor and like birthing, I mean, all of it, and preparing and nesting, it's like, that's what you get. Really, I never got anything else. Then there's this whole other level that you can embark on, or that I'm offering to embark on, where you can be, first of all, in a circle of women who are all going through it, which is really nice. And also just have some understanding of like, well, what the hell's happening to me on an emotional psychology, you know, physiological and psychological level, versus just like, okay, what's going to happen to my body and what's going to happen when I labor? That's all physical, you know?
I think you brought up something super powerful, that I'm not even pregnant, I'm there already, in that fear of the death of the identity, in that fear of like who I'm going to relinquish being and all the things I have to sacrifice when this entity comes.
Yeah.
Can we talk about
that?
And
that's
I feel like that's
totally
real for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's funny. I just got the phone with a woman talking about the same thing. Michelle said, I wish I had this when I was pregnant. See, that's what I mean. It's all in retrospect. It's so hard when you're pregnant to see that that's a need. But yeah, to what you said, Michelle, like, I think, again, it's about, you know, first of all, can you ever like really prepare for what's on the other side? Not 100%, because it's the biggest unknown, the biggest mystery of how you step into that, what your birth is going to be like, which does color the beginning a little bit, your labor, and just like how you and your partner are going to shift and meld. So there's going to be mystery around it. So I think the first thing is, how can I accept the mystery? How can I just really find peace in that mystery? How can I really trust? And what are the things that I've built in my life that will allow me to know that no matter what comes up, I have that level of trust with myself now? And if it's not there, how can I build that? You know, support. Who are the women around me who have children who will be like on my team when I cross over? That is integral. Or while I'm pregnant, because, you know, in my like tribe on my husband's side, me and my friend Maureen were the first to have kids. I was the very first, and I had to kind of figure out a lot on my own. And then Maureen was a few months after me, and we were sort of figuring it out. And like now, like 3 years later, our girlfriend in the same group of friends just had her baby, beautiful baby boy named Cypress. And she's like, we're like on top of her, like, what do you need? What do you got? How's breastfeeding going? You know, and she can just like, and she has that. I mean, like Maureen lives next door, was making her smoothies during her labor, you know, like that is awesome. So it's like having that team of women is so big because they know, you know. And I remember like having those women after my birth, and just, there was like 2 women in particular, Anna Soberanis and Kari Rogers Sanders. I'll never forget these women. They would come over and I would just cry and be like, I'm so like confused by this and like my feelings. And they were like, I know, isn't it crazy? Like one day you're this one. And they just saw me. And I needed that so badly because then I didn't feel. Whereas my mom was trying to like want me to feel better because she's my mama. My friends wanted me to like get fixed because they didn't want to see me sad, you know? So it's like you want to have that support network who's going to get it. You know, I got you, Michelle.
I know,
you
girl.
Baby,
You're
so.
one of our first. I'm gonna go to.
That's right. I got you. So that support, but also like there's all of these cool processes and tools that I can teach you that, you know, really prepare you. And there are things that I did before my vision quest. Like one of the things I wanted to do with women in this course was just to like have them timeline every year of their life up until they got pregnant. And I did this with my vision fast. It was like every year and just seeing what was the most impactful piece of that year that even comes to memory, even when you were 5. And then just look at that whole spectrum and honor.
Love that.
Just honor the heck out of who you've been, what you've done, where you still are going, and just know that that woman is carrying in and she'll look different. But if you don't even take the time to honor her, then of course you're going to be scared because you're like, oh God, well, I haven't like, you know, I'm going to lose her. Is she going to be there? But if you take her with you, you know, it's like a whole different way of entering into it versus like, I got to leave her behind and become this mom,
Right.
which is sort of what set up for us. Like, oh God, everything's going to change. Everything's going to be harder.
Yeah.
And, you know, things will change, of course. But like, that's just one of the tools that you can do to just like really start timelining and looking at how am I honoring? And that's what a rite of passage is. It's like honoring. Before I went on my vision fast, we spent 6 months just in the honoring process. It's called severance. And it's just 100% honoring your story, where you've been, who you've been, what you are consciously wanting to die to, like what you don't want to bring into motherhood. And at Threshold, we do a lot of lineage work because so much stuff follows you into motherhood. Things you thought you would never do. Like, never thought I would yell at my kid like that. It's happening, you know, like things like that. It's just, or I never thought I would pass scarcity on my son, you know, or like if I see him doing something like, oh, I want that piece before it runs out, I'm like, oh no, did I teach him that there's not enough, you know?
Right.
Like little things like that. And of course, a lot of them you will learn on the other side, which is why I have Threshold, because you can't anticipate all of it. But I do feel like building that support and just having the honoring, which is why I love blessing ways. I've attended like 4 this year. Just having that honoring piece is so huge. And I do encourage women who are about to have children. You could even do a blessing way before you're pregnant to just honor going into the process of conceiving, because conception is like a whole nother growth process. You know, sometimes it happens right away. Sometimes it doesn't happen for a long time. Sometimes there's miscarriage. It's a huge learning process just to conceive. So there's just so many levels of that passage that can be honored and really taken into consideration.
So good.
And, you know, Alexi, who you interviewed, when we did her blessing way, the number one thing that like made me smile at the end of hers was she just said like, I feel ready. I feel ready now, you know, because like that was like a final thing for her to be seen. And women, I think it's so important for them to be seen before they cross over into that threshold.
You guys better fly to New York for mine. So
I would love to come to New York.
Anne has a great question, and I think it ties into what you're creating with Threshold. What can nomadic women do to make a tribe that feels physically close?
It is such a great question. You know, I consider myself a little bit of a nomad, even though I don't travel all that much, because I am such a Scorpio. I'm like, extrovert, retreat. And so I have like a lot of people around the world, like Michelle, you know, who I like our sisters. But like in my immediate community of Santa Barbara, I don't actually have that many women here, you know, and I'm realizing that as I get near to this birth, and I'm like, oh God, you know, I do have women here, but it's not like my ride or die right here, you know. So, you know, I think just, you know, making big requests of people is, kind of a good thing as far as like, you know, I have a friend from Eugene, Oregon, who's like, I will fly down during your birth time and just wait and be there with you. And I was like, wow, you would do that? It's so sweet. And that meant a lot to me, just to have like a really conscious plan around, this is just for your birth, of course, conscious plan around how you envision the support being there and lining that up for yourself and making those big requests, those big asks. As far as just a community, I'm not gonna lie, it's not very easy. We don't live in a village society, and my midwife was saying this the other day too, Dawn Dana, who I love. She was just like, yeah, we were never meant to be mothers in the society that's been built for us. So, you know, it's difficult. It's not always easy. But, you know, the way that I've constructed that is just by, you know, using like media, you know, like creating threads. I like Marco Polo all my mom friends all over the country, and like, you know, really creating a women's circle in your own community and just starting with like one person or two people. And they grow because women are drawn to this, and you won't even know what's going to evolve from it, even if you don't know people. But I've done this before where I've just been like, I'm just going to have two women meet every week, set the intention until it grows. And then they grow like wildfire because like more moms want that and they're hungry. So it kind of takes a little bit of courage to kind of put those things out there. And if you're traveling around a lot, I would say like, the benefit of having technology is that you can create those things like in a global community. I mean, to me, it's not the ideal, because it is really nice to have people close by and just have that connection and have like breastfeed your kids together and stuff like that. But it does allow you to, you know, have the person to lean on or feel supported and talk. And I feel like talking and sharing is such a big part of motherhood, and just feeling understood. So, but you know, this is a little bit of a crisis too. I'm not going to say I have all the answers to this one, because it is sort of a crisis in our culture. And I feel like more communities are being built for mothers. And even with me, I'm trying so much to do that with Threshold. But it's not super easy sometimes. And I find that it really takes a lot of courage and consistency of just like asking and putting yourself out there to women that you see, that you just really feel connected to.
Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I want to talk about something that might be a little sensitive, but because you know that with Alexi, we talked about her miscarriage, which is really powerful, and
so powerful.
I also want to talk about the flip side of that, right? There are women that conceive and they may feel like, holy shit, I need to like be mindful of the women that are going through it, you know, with the miscarriages. And I see that especially in my circle in New York, where I see women conceive and want to hush it and keep it from their friends that are having a hard time conceiving. So there's shame both ways. There's shame from the women that are having a hard time conceiving, and then there's shame from the women that are conceiving. What would you say to that?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if you saw a post I put up just about that,
Really?
about having survivor guilt. Yeah, the day before Alexi posted about her miscarriage, and I didn't know she was going to post. I posted something about having survival guilt at 37, because so many women around me are in that position of like miscarriage and having trouble conceiving, and I was terrified I was going to have a miscarriage with this baby. But just like Alexi said, she kind of knew that baby was going to go. This baby was like, I'm not going. Like, I made a long journey and I'm staying. So chill out. I'm like, okay, all right. But yeah, there is, you know, I think it's just a practice in transparency, because I have another girlfriend who I'm very close with, and we wanted to conceive at the same time. You know, we were both ready at the same time, and she still hasn't conceived. And I was just at her house the other day, and I'm like 6 months pregnant, and our kids are like great friends. And I was like, you know, I just have to tell you, I still have like guilt around, because I want you so badly to be pregnant. And I just want to put that out there, because whenever, you know, I feel that. And and she's like, oh, you know, I'm really surrendered. And, you know, she was reassuring, but I felt it was just so important for me to say that out loud. And it's actually why I ended up putting that post up, because I was like, wow, I am holding that, especially because Alexi's a good friend of mine. And I, found out about her, and I was like, you don't have to come to my blessing way if you don't want to, because that could be hard for you. And I just had a lot of compassion. And she was like, no, that's going to be like the best thing. I would love to do it. Alexi being Alexi. And it does kind of affect me. And for me, just as powerful it is for that as it is for them to not silence themselves. Because I mean, there's been some awesome women speaking out about this year. I really want to honor them. Melaine Lee also did, and also Estelle Spano, women I really respect. And they had done it earlier this year, said the same thing, and then Alexi too. And I'm like, this is so fucking cool that these women are like taking the taboo and the shame out of it. That's the biggest service we can do as far as that process, because it is so lonely and scary. And I didn't have a miscarriage with this one, but I had a false start. Like I think I started to get pregnant, and then I actually had my moon, but it was painful and crampy, and I think I actually was becoming pregnant. And even for that, it affected me so deeply, that possibility. And which is why I was so afraid when she came. I feel like she was here and she came back. I'm very strongly connected to the spirit of this baby, and I feel like she did come in. And then my friend who just had a baby got pregnant. We were in the same house. I think she was like, we just need to like let her have her space and time, and you're not quite ready, and I'm going to come back. And like these little souls are so wise. They know so much more than we do on this planet right now. It's crazy. They have a totally different consciousness. But I do think that me speaking to them and being upfront, instead of me showing up to my blessing way and saying, oh God, is this offending Alexi? Is this making her feel bad right now? I was just straight up and was like, hey, is this going to be painful for you? And I feel like that's the respect that I can offer these women, to not prounce around and pretend like I'm okay and I feel awkward and there's this energy because I'm pregnant and you're not. I'm just like, hey, I feel weird right now. Hey, are you okay with this? Hey, this is happening. And I think it actually supports them and it supports me. And it's, again, just that whole other level of like not having the shame spiral happen between mothers. That's mothers supporting mothers in that way. And it's just a practice of like staying in that transparency.
Yeah, this is so good, Mama. And I so appreciate your transparency in this, because that's it. Being vulnerable, being direct, and saying what's on your heart, and knowing that it's going to land and you're going to move through that conversation both powerfully, both feeling like there's a win-win and everyone's heard and seen. I have another question for you in terms of threshold. So,
sure.
When you move through the threshold and you're there, and I loved what you said at the beginning. I think that was so powerful, how the Western culture, and I think now probably even globally, that we have made becoming a mom the pre-registry, the all about the labor, all about the material stuff. I think that was huge when you said that. And that's how we celebrate these rites of passages, the wedding, all the stuff, right? All the stuff. Mm-hmm. Once you cross over, what would you say to a woman that is experiencing now these changes? The baby is here. The baby is now demanding, because these babies come fully clear on what they want.
Oh, yeah.
What would you say to the women that have the support, that have the hubby next to them, but also to the women that do not have that? There's a lot of single women that are moms and are going through it alone. So what would you say to those especially?
Yeah. Well, you mean especially to the single moms?
I would say to both, and also in particular to the single moms.
Yeah. I mean, actually, that is if we're putting them together, that's like a great beginning to the answer to that question, because no matter what the situation, and I've worked with a lot of single moms too, actually a lot more single moms than moms with partners. So it's like I bow to these single moms who put the money down. They're just like, I'm in. They're so awesome, man. But is, just really looking at every single moment of motherhood, every challenge, every breastfeeding faux pas, every little thing as like the next step in their growth and transformation process. Because we sign up for coaching processes all the time. Well, you know, people who are in this work. And, you know, we consciously sign up for those things. Same thing with motherhood. You know, it's like if we're agreeing to have this baby, we are consciously signing up for this program. It's a very long program, lasts kind of forever, but it's very intense in the first 3 years. And is like, it's such a cliche now, I feel, but it's so true when they say when a baby is born, so is a mother. And I don't feel like those mothers, like I feel like when you become a mother, it's almost like that. You think you consciously get that, but then once you're there, you kind of throw it out and just say, but yeah, but I should be. And then that's the conversation that is like spiraling in your mind. I should be this mother. I should be that mother. I should be more like her. I should be able to do this, you know. And every mom has the child or children who are choosing them for their highest evolution of their own unique path.
So proud.
So, you know, like when you're a single mom.
That's so proud.
Yeah, we'll just pause for that because it's so true. And, you know, like the comparison game is like the number one killer for mothers' souls. There's no way. And we're not supposed to be, there's no way you can compare. We're not supposed to be doing that, you know, because we're getting this gift of like what's here for us. Yeah. I mean, my birth compared to like my friend's birth, who just had the baby, or Alexi's birth, 1000% different, you know. It was like, mine was like trauma, mine was like dark, mine was this tunnel, it was like depression. But like what came out of that was like 3 years later, I'm living this medicine that I just like, I'm like, whoa, thank you for trusting me with this medicine of this rite of passage work. I mean, Empowered Mothers Alliance was just steps to get here. I feel like everything I've been doing has just prepared me to do this work. And it's challenging me because it's deep work and it takes a lot of holding. But I love it, you know, and I feel honored by it. And Sitka, my little man, be loud over in the other room, he was the guy who brought that medicine in at his birth. And, you know, everything, my midwives and even my OB in the hospital did everything possible for me to have a vaginal birth, right? And I just wouldn't open to the level that I could do that. So I had to have a C-section. And that's the way I think Sitka was like, this is how I need to come in the world. But it was like my plan that he was going against. And I was holding, that was when I look back, it's like I was trying to control it to be my plan. And this child had an idea of how he wanted his birth to be. And so, you know, I got in the, you know, it's like when we get in the way of how that transformation wants to show up, I think that's when we get a little tripped up. And so, you know, Alexi was at the movies 5 days after Kingston was born. I was like, oh, that's amazing. How the fuck did she do that? You know, I was like, I couldn't even like get out of bed. I mean, I had a C-section, so it's different, but I was like, damn girl, get it. I was like so impressed. And also like, you know, triggered like how come I couldn't get like to a movie for 3 months, you know? But then I was like, no. But it's just so programmed. Like, oh my God, yeah, the should, there it is, you know. But that wasn't I wasn't supposed to do that, you know. Every single nerve in me was like shaking for the first 3 months. And I had to feel that. I had to go through that to drop all this masculine energy that was kind of like taking over my life in a way that was unhealthy. And also like to discover that like the calling I had as a coach wasn't quite working for me, but I didn't want to look at that. It brought so much up. So it is like the next level, top tier transformational ride you can really hop on. And if you look at it like that, you know, from the beginning, which is another thing I want to prepare moms for, is just like every moment will be a choice of like how you get to be, how you get to transform. And you will feel the guilt and you can't avoid any of those things, but you can like rise up into the human spirit around it and just say like, well, you know, if this were for my evolution, what would I be choosing right now? And I think single moms, like I really love for them to embrace that, because I'm just like, you're a fucking badass, man. Like you don't have that partner there. Jenny leaves for a weekend and I'm like, oh, is he coming back? you know? And then I look at these moms I'm coaching and I'm like, God, you're so amazing. Like, can you teach me how to do that when my husband's gone? But that's because their soul and their evolution, like they were preparing for that their whole life.
I love that.
And they can do it, you know? They're so amazing to me.
You brought something up that I've heard come up for me a few times where people, yes, single mom.
Karina. That's my girl, Karina. She was an Empowered Mother's Alliance.
Yes.
Let's see.
The whole like comparison with women that do like and I know it's trending, babe. Like I feel like it's trending. This is my opinion. And I'm no expert in the matter. Where the whole, you know, birthing in your home with the pool, awesome. And then the women that feel they can't have that are forced to go to the hospital and do it the traditional way, feel inadequate. Like something in them is not enough. They're not capable. They're not women because they didn't have that. And I just feel like it's such a, with all due respect, I feel like it's an oxymoron because like so many women in the past died because there was no traditional C-section and all this stuff we have available to us now. So many women died in labor, and that's a gift that we have as a backup option when we need it. So what would you say to that?
Yeah, that's a really cool thing you bring up because like the hospitals become like the new evil. And it's like the new elitist, like it's like the new elitist birth. It's like you got to birth it and the full the thing. And it is another shame producer. Like, you know, like women, you're allowed to birth in the hospital. It's okay. And I felt tons of shame that I had to like transfer from my home birth. But I got into an elitist mindset around it. Like, this is the way women should birth. The hospitals are evil. But the crazy thing is I learned that from like my birth classes, like my natural birth classes. And I was like, man, that really what did not serve me. Like they didn't prepare me for the whole gambit, you know, like of what the possibilities were. And my friend who just gave birth, like I really was honoring her process because she was like, could happen here. I could be at the hospital. She was so surrendered. Of course, she'd seen my journey. So, and she lived with us since Sitka was 3, you know, so she knows my story really well. And she knows Sitka really well. But
she's like, I love you, honey, you boss mama.
Oh, hi, honey.
I love you too.
Thanks for tuning in. So sweet. But yeah, there is a, you know, it's double-sided because there is like this business of the hospitals that is a little corrupt around not really giving women their choices within the hospital. But I feel like, pun intended, like people are throwing the baby out with the bathwater and just saying, well, hospitals are bad, you know, and that birth isn't legitimate anymore. But it's not, you know, it's like wherever a woman feels the safest is where she should get to give birth. That's it. Wherever she feels good. And I've heard of women who've had beautiful hospital births, you know, just like easeful, no drugs, like amazing mothers, or I mean, amazing nurses. And let's see, Karina said, it's not about criticizing those women, their ability to go natural. Criticizing a system that doesn't support women to make the right choice. Exactly, Karina. So it's about the system not supporting women to make the right choice for them, especially when they want natural birth. And that is the thing, is it's gotten to be this kind of evil in this battle. Here in Santa Barbara, they won't do a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after cesarean, which is what I'm doing for my next birth. I'm going to attempt to have another vaginal birth. Most women who have had C-sections are always encouraged to go right into another C-section, which is really not necessary. But this hospital here is very conservative, and they don't even allow for a VBAC. So if I go to the hospital here, I found a renegade doctor who I love, which is a good thing. That kind of saved my. So if I do have to transfer, she's my doctor. She's like, you can decline the C-section. It won't be a popular choice, but I will support you if you want to have a natural birth. And so I have her on my side, which was huge. And that was like one of the only reasons I could relax into having a home birth again, because I knew that I would have an option if I transferred. Versus before I met her, I was like, oh God, if I go there, it's just C-section. So there's a lot of pressure now on this home birth. And, you know, also just not making anything bad. I don't want to make a C-section bad. Like, that's how my son came into the world. He keeps asking me how the baby's going to come out. I was like, well, she could come out of my vagina, or she could come out of my belly like you. There's two ways to have babies, you know? And that feels like so good to say out loud to him over and over. But it's just, yeah, it's about like that. That's kind of disappointing that the hospital that they wouldn't support my choice. So it's more that the hospitals they have built it into a little bit of a business. So that's controversial, and that's not
Yeah.
really supporting moms, and that is frustrating. But I do think it has bled into this a new should around how you should be birthing in order to have like the baby be okay
But
and all these
we're
things. But
shooting ourselves. I think that moms are shooting themselves, and I think
oh yeah.
that's where, like, I've been in talks where I hear women say, like, I'm not a mom until I give vaginal birth, and I'm like, girl, you might have died. Like, have you been good
Yeah,
for
I probably
that?
would have died.
You know?
I was, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
As Brianna say, how can I best support moms I work with who are struggling with the anxieties of having a new baby when I don't fully understand their situation? Oh, that's a great question. Brianna, are you a coach?
she
Um,
works with new moms.
she works with new
She
moms.
says, I work closely with new moms, but I do not have any children of my own.
Okay. Yeah, I actually know a lot of coaches who work with a lot of moms who don't have children. And, you know, if you've just hopped on, Brianna, rewatch some of what I've talked about just about like holding it as the transformation. If you're holding motherhood as the transformational process, you know, then every single moment and every single way that they're experiencing motherhood is an opportunity for a new possibility. And that's what coaching is, right? It's like creating the possibility. So like around every quarter, a mother will have that opportunity. Now, it is an interesting question because one of the reasons I created Empowered Mothers Alliance, the online program I was running before, was because I wanted a group that just had moms in it. Because I had been in coaching programs where I had been considered in the same bracket of action that non-moms were, and sometimes I had to cancel things or put plans aside because my son got sick or things happened, and then I felt like a failure. I felt behind, and I felt like I couldn't bring that to the coach because I didn't want to sound like I was giving an excuse. So there is sort of this like alienation that can happen as far as like the expectations. And I think that's the hardest part if you don't have kids, of just understanding sometimes like those aren't reasons that you're trying to back out. It's like some things really do come up. And I have to like give props to Jennifer Love, my coach right now, who's I'm doing a money program with her. I've been like so up and down with her program because of my pregnancy, and she doesn't have kids. But she's been very accommodating and really understanding that I need to have some space and a particular pace in pregnancy. And that was huge. That was everything to me. And she doesn't have kids. So I would say, oh, you're a nanny. Okay. So yeah, just really having compassion for their pace, I would say, is a big one that you could miss if you aren't a mom. So just keep your eye out on that. But then also allowing the women to, you know, just if you're working with moms, especially, just saying like, hey, you know, like, this is all, you get to be a beginner today. Just be a beginner. You don't have to know how to be a mom today, you know, and I'm here to help you. So that's great. You took a great first step. I'm supporting you. And that's something that's so wonderful for moms to hear over and over. Because, you know, my Kundalini teacher who does prenatal, she's amazing. She said, motherhood is a meditation. She said, she went around the circle and said, who's meditated this morning? And I was like, not me. Like, I was so tired. My son was up all night. And she goes, honey, motherhood is a meditation. You're good. And I was like, holy crap, it is a meditation. Thank you for saying that. Because every moment when I'm with him, I'm like, triggered, center. Okay, here's how we're going to handle this. Triggered, center. Okay, I didn't mean to yell at you like that. We're constantly mirrored by these children. And that is a day-long meditation. So even just reminding these moms, like, hey, this is an all-day thing you're doing. Like, give yourself a break. He's going to be okay. Our children never come out unscathed. You know, the more you can make a mother feel like a human and give her permission, the better you'll relate to her. I'd say that's Pretty simple rule.
Love that. I love
But
that.
it goes far.
So I'm going to ask you the same question I've been asking all of our experts. This is my last question for you. And thank you so much for sharing so much wisdom and just your beautiful flowy grace with that.
Aww,
I can
it's been a joy.
totally see the glow of this baby magic coming through. What would you say are your top 2 to 3 tips on creating an epic year?
Wow. Well, I would say the first one is just like figure out what your top 3 values are. Just figure out your top 3 values. Me and Jenny did this as a family, and ours are spirit, growth, and oh God, pregnancy brain. Spirit, service. There it is. Spirit, service, and growth. If we have those 3 things in our life at all time, then we're thriving. And it kind of takes the shoulds out of the New Year resolution, because it's like, oh God, I'm not doing enough. And it's like, well, wait, are the things I'm doing lining up with these 3 things? Am I in service? Am I like embarking in and taking part of my spiritual life? Am I growing? Yes, yes, yes. All right, I'm good, you know? And how can I even maximize that now that I know I'm in alignment with that? So that's one. What else? I'm trying to think of for me. 2, I mean, I treat the new year as like a continuation. I love the energetic of the new year. I feel energy in the new year. And so I feel like that's why we like jump on the new year, resolutions and things. But I would say feel the energy of the new year, not the pressure of it, you know? Just feel that like newness and find ways you can ritualize the rebirth of yourself and your soul and your work and your purpose and all the things that feed you and like make you feel creative, versus putting all those shoulds on your back and like creating goals that maybe don't align with those values, which is why I say the values first, because we can be very quick to create goals and to-do lists that actually aren't in alignment with us. And then we're like, oh, where did the new year go? Why did we screw up this year at the end of the year? It's like, oh, well, you just didn't know what you were committed to. So always coming back to what you're committed to. Thanks, honey. He's so cute. I love my husband. Yeah, and you know what? Just like, I don't know, like the last thing I want to say is just like, just find some ways that you can just like be grateful and like, I don't mean like having like a gratitude practice, even though that's a good thing to have, but I mean like, you know, I just went to a funeral. My grandma just had a stroke like in the new year. These were big things that happened right at the beginning of the year that just made me realize like, God, I'm so blessed. Just count your blessings. I mean, it's such a simple thing, but like really like starting the year with like, well, what have I already been blessed with? How far have I come? And going back to that honoring process and ritualizing that again. That's kind of like how I jam. So
good.
Those are my 3.
So good. I love the top 3 values. Love your values, by the way. So resonate.
Thank you. I know, that's why we're simpatico, you and I.
But I think it's so important for people to define what their life is about. And not a lot of people spend time. We, like you said, we spend a lot of time in the things we want to accomplish, obtain, the material, the finances, but how often do we really get to define the context of our life? And that shapes everything. So I think that's so powerful that you brought it to the forefront. You've been our first speaker bringing that one up.
All right. Woo!
So good. Babe, thank you.
Not a competition.
No, not a competition. Just distinguishing you and them.
That's something my husband and I say at home, you know. We're like, yeah, because we're so competitive. We're like, it's not a competition. There's enough for everybody. We're funny. Thank you for having me.
For all
my
of
pleasure.
it, for saying yes, for joining us, for sharing so generously. And we're going to put the link to your course, the masterclass, at the end of this month.
Cool. And we also have Threshold coming up. I have one more before I have this baby.
When?
So it's going to be a while before I do Threshold again. February 21st. So doing applications for that now.
Do you have links for
And
that?
It's going to be here in Santa Barbara. I do. Yeah. I'll hand them over to you on the comments.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's my in-breath, where I'm adding a special surprise to that one because it's in the U.S. I have some more resources this time. So
I'm so excited. And I'm going to see you soon. I'm going to see you in a couple weeks. I can't wait, babe.
Yes. I know. I can't wait either. I'm so excited. So thank you to everyone who came on
Yes.
here. Desi, I see you on here. I'm doing a live with Desi tomorrow on some of these things too.
Nice.
So. And KS, I don't know if that's your initials, but thank you for all your comments and your love.
And Adam and Brianna, some really amazing people.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for staying on with us. And all the people on replay.
Thanks, sister.
Replay. And yes, I'll see you soon, but thank you so much, guys.
Okay.
Bye.
Love you guys. Bye.